how do you interact with the congregation? What does your stage energy look like, and how much do you focus on that?
So, I used to be an eye closer, and now I'm trying to back away from closing my eyes so much and trying to connect with people. Also, so I'm gonna be honest with you. When I'm like, wait, what's the words? I kind of halfway close my eyes and I'm looking down, I'm like, oh, that's what it is. And so, don't judge me. We all have our tricks. But now I open my eyes. I try to raise my hands more, engage more. And the main reason why is because I try to envision if somebody is visiting the church for the first time and they're like, okay, what is worship? And they're looking at me as an example, I need to show a good example of how we worship God. So, yeah.
Yeah, I would say for me, it would be graceful passion. I went to a restaurant. Favorite restaurant now is in Newburgh. Rose Marino's. That's what's up, right? The chef comes out and talks to us about the meal. And man, he's got a passion for what he cooks, right? So, but it's graceful, right? So it's like, I feel like as a worship leader, I'm trying to set a table. I'm trying to invite people to eat the most tasty food they have ever eaten in their life. But if they don't eat it, I'm graceful. Right? All you can do is set the table and invite people in. So I show up with this graceful passion that for me, I have so much passion for worship and there is invitation to join the passion. But there's never condemnation for, I see you folding their arms. I'm gonna stare you down until I see those hands up, right? It's never that. It's setting the table, it's inviting people in, it's sharing the passion, but it's never a condemning.
Sometimes I try to remember that I've been up longer than most people attending the gathering, and if I come out the gate like at a 27 out of 10, I'm just gonna punch them in the face, and it's so aggressive. Even if that's how I feel about it, and I'm excited. I just gotta be careful. I'm not trying to take people out at like 9 a.m. when they just had one sip of coffee. But also to be myself, I do move around and I do smile, and it is myself. So you have to find a balance. Like, be yourself, don't be aggressive, but be yourself and bring people along with you. Maybe my song too, they're gonna be bopping with me, you never know. And a hard thing for me is, we all have the people. We all have our people in the congregation that are going with you, even if it's like tanks. And it is just the greatest. So you look at them, but you have to look at everybody else. You can't just look at your hype people. You can't. And it's tough because they're awesome, but I have to look. Okay, so we've talked a lot today from if you're a worship pastor or maybe even on staff worship director at the church. What if I'm a volunteer worship leader or just a musician, but a musician on the worship team? What is my leadership role and my dynamic with both the team and leading the congregation?
Well, I wouldn't minimize myself and say just a volunteer, because if there were no volunteers, we'd be struggling. We'd be crying. I think the most important thing you can do as a volunteer is make sure you're reading, studying, and know the scriptures, because when we're all in that group and we're trying to do our thing, you're leaning on people to try to help you out. You're leaning on people like, hey, is this a good song? Am I approaching this the right way? Don't be scared to speak into your leader's life too, because at the end of the day, that's it's just a title. Yes, I'm shepherding, I'm helping, but I'm a believer who's struggling just like you. I'm a sinner just like you, and I need people to walk me along. There's days where I'm out of it, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I can do this, and so I'll need that same encouragement too. So as long as you're staying strong and praying and growing in Scripture and growing in your faith, you're going to pull me along that same way too, so don't minimize yourself.
I like this. You go first. That gives me a chance to think about what I got to say.
I'm going third next time.
The first Sunday I came to this church, I didn't know anybody. Nobody knew me. The keyboard player, he didn't have a mic on. Her name's Laurel. She's amazing. She was full on worship. It wasn't like face in the music, playing keyboard. She's full on worship. Me, who's been a worship pastor forever, I look up there, I'm inspired by the keyboard player worship. It brought me into worship a deeper, when everyone on stage is worshiping, fully engaged on worship, it is inspiring. It's like, I don't want to miss out. Right? So everybody expects the main person to be like engaged. But when, like, if the instruments, you're not playing, you're clapping, your hands are up, you're singing, like, that makes a huge difference. It is, like, even more so probably than the main person behind the mic. That's the thing, it's real.
I'll just say that I don't spend time with Jesus because I'm a worship pastor and to prepare for Sunday. I spend time with him because I have a personal relationship with him. I spend time preparing music because I want to honor God with excellence because I have a personal relationship with him. Those are things that we all are, like, I hope have to some degree or are developing, right? So that it's the same. It doesn't matter if the title is in front of your name or not, or if you are working another job and leading at a church. Out of our relationship with Jesus comes our response and our preparation and our leadership and our desire to do that more.
What does your working dynamic look like alongside your lead pastor?
You said it one time.
What does your working dynamic look like alongside your lead pastor?
Jiu-jitsu. Fights.
Do you normally win?
You said what?
Do you normally win?
No. I just said I was mad.
I'll go first so you can have the time to think. I think that you got to recognize that your lead pastor wears 3 hats. And you wear 3 hats too, but we're talking about the lead pastor. The lead pastor wears the hat of pastor, your pastor. They wear the hat of boss, your boss, if you work for them. And they wear the hat of friend or family of God. Those are 3 very confusing hats. They really are. And it's really hard for your lead pastor to be able to wear both. They want to wear the pastor hat more than they want to wear the boss hat. Guaranteed it. Right? And then there's also this friend hat, and what does it mean? One of the things that's helpful to help make it easier to be led by them is just, if it's confusing, to just clarify. It's like, do you have your boss hat right on? Or do you have your boss hat on right now? Do you have your pastor hat on? Do you have your friend hat? You know, what are we doing? Because you receive them differently. If he has your boss hat on, and he tells you to do something, or if there's a lack of clarity, you can just say, okay, are we having a conversation right now, or is this a decision that's been made? Like, I would say always push for clarity in communication, because if you don't have good, clear communication, things go sideways really quick. So just be like, hey, are we having a conversation? Because a lot of people, I think out loud. So a lot of times I might be having a conversation, and they think it's a decision. Or vice versa, right? So being able to ask, hey, is this a decision? And if your pastor has a boss hat on and a decision has been made, you do it. Even if you disagree. Unless it's against the core value, it's like we serve as somebody who's under authority. Right? Unless they're calling you against a core value conviction that runs so deep that you're ready to resign over it, then you do it, right? Anyway, so just understanding the different hats, knowing what conversation we're having at what time. If something's hard for you, put a hat on of curiosity. I love your session, dude. You lit it up with ask questions. That's so good. Because when you ask a question, you're no longer assuming you're right, but you put curiosity on it. So just being able to ask questions of curiosity of, man, I don't think I quite understand what you're saying. Can you help me understand this better? Right? But I'd say those are just some toolbox for working with the lead pastor.
I'll be third this time.
Mix it up. So you're second only.
There we go. That's true. I didn't even realize that. Anyways, okay, I have a really interesting dynamic right now because this is the first time that I work with a pastor who's musical. Yeah, different dynamic than a non-music guy, right, or gal. So my lead pastor, one of them leads worship and plays instruments and has creative thoughts and ideas, you know. One part that's cool is there's just like huge level of understanding and trust because it's kind of like music to music person, right? Super cool. Thing in that. Other thing is, though, he has lots of ideas, wants to be creative, wants to be part of it. But it's cool, because I've been on the other end too, and honestly it's kind of more fun to have somebody who has ideas with you and wants to process. For me, most of the time, even though that's a habit he wears, is musician and worship leader, though we do operate in, there's like independence. So I can just do things and there's trust that I'm going to do them, and if he has an opinion, we'll talk about it. So that's the kind of cool thing. I feel like there's freedom to have a different opinion, freedom to approach, freedom to disagree. But at the end of the day, like we're saying, he's the lead pastor, and I will honor him in that, and I will honor that God has put him in place there, and trust that he is hearing from God, and I will follow and submit to that vision. And if I'm ever unsure, he normally speaks really clearly, but you might just get one of these too. So we're to the wise on these kind of comments. I said, here's what I'm thinking we'll do for the set for this. Spits out the set. He says, I don't really think we need a song before insert song 2. And I was like, he's like, but you know, whatever you want. And I was like, okay, so we're not doing song 1. He really wants to start with this one. And I was like laughing. I was like, that's how I know. That's how I know. He's not going to tell me what to do, but I can tell it's important to him. And that comes out of relationship too, and just working with him.
Our relationship is great. It's interesting now because now I'm in the role of associate pastor. I'm more trying to develop people to be in the role of worship pastor or worship leader, and so I'm now finding myself in the role of having to see what they want to do and how they want to approach it. You know, I'm pretty much like kind of running the show right now, but I'm trying to put them in positions to lead. And so I guess I have to ask, how is it working with myself? I don't know. It's been cool seeing that transition and like respecting more of what pastors have to do, how they have to deal with, because it's not just the song or the set, because now you're thinking the whole picture of how am I trying to just shepherd this whole church. And so when you look at it from that big picture window of just shepherding the whole church, you're not more concerned with the specific song versus the theme and how it's going to impact the people. And yeah, it's just, I'm already getting overwhelmed right now talking about it. It's a lot, and I'm still trying to work through that. But, you know, pray. Please pray for me. It's a lot. But no, I mean, but just working with pastors has been, it's been great, you know, just being able to work one-on-one and really focusing on themes more than songs.
How do you pick a set list?
I'll go second if you want.
1, 2, 3.
Well, you pick your favorite songs, don't you? No, actually, that like never really is the whole set, so let's be real. You know what, I do take into consideration maybe the message that's going to be happening that day. If there's some kind of response that the pastor's looking to do, I'll have awareness of that. I'm a big fan of themes. They usually go together. But I would say the biggest thing that I care about at the end of the day is I'm a huge fan of up-focused songs. I don't like 4-song sets of me, about me and who God is to me and how much he loves me and how great I am to him. So they have their place, but I usually just pick upward songs.
We do communion every Sunday, so it tends to be gospel-focused songs towards the end. Or it'll be a song that's kind of a song of reflection after the sermon. I mean, you know, I'm not that creative. It's 2 ups, a mid, and a slow. You know, you go, I'm going to do something different. It works for a reason. It just kind of makes sense. So I do that. I know what one thing I do is if we're doing a new song, I like to do that song at least twice to 3 times in a row on Sunday to make sure we learn it. And that always feels embarrassing to me, like, okay guys, don't judge me. I don't know, that's my own thing, the insecurities. But I'm sure they appreciate it because they're learning the song. But yeah, that's pretty much how I pick it. It's I don't want to say it's not too deep, because it's very deep. It's the gospel. I'm trying to make sure that's lined up. But it's not too deep. Once you got a formula, I just kind of go with that.
The convergence of multiple streams of things that come together. Quickly, going back to my philosophy of worship, I'm always trying to lead people towards vertical moments. I have 3 categories of songs. I have opening songs, testimony songs, vertical songs. The testimony songs are what God has done for me. You see a lot of that language in the Psalms, so because that's the Psalm. The Psalms is the worship book for Israel. I'm comfortable singing those. Ultimately, I run the same play every week. I'm trying to get people to go up. So there's always a progression of opening, testimonial to vertical. I look at who's leading. I try to pick songs that will fit our worship leaders, whoever has a song and the keys. That works for them. I look at the message and what is going on there. I'm looking for how to create moments. I'm looking at keys and just the musical progression of it, the dynamics, where does it come into play. For keys, I try to find, now this isn't the most important, but it is important, songs either in the same key, a half step up or a whole step up, or a transition of a 4th or a 5th, because those are the best progression of feeling like there's a journey that is progressing musically as there's a journey that's progressing lyrically. I pull all those things together. I also have history of what songs we've sung, whether the songs are early in the rotation. If I just got a song, I'm singing it almost every week for a while. And then I got songs that are in the sweet spot, which we do about once a month. And then there's the songs that we're not ready to leave them yet, so we sing once every 3 to 6 months. And then there's the songs that I would call uncle songs, which are like your uncle comes to visit, you love to see him, but you're happy he goes. Sorry, Uncle Larry, that's not about you. And so it's like taking the heart of worship. It's like, man, something's going to come alive if you do that song once a year. Because people love it and they haven't sung it forever. But if you do it every week, you're gonna, it's gonna be done. So all of those things, I make a list of the songs that are in that area that we should be singing right now, because it's about once a month, and then it's time to be sung again. And then I do all the other things, put it together to the perfect worship set every Sunday.
Perfect. Always end on the 4.
Terry believes that the 4 is like the Spirit of God putting his hand on your face.
There you go.
So,
always end on the 4.
There it is.
I have one more question, but before I ask it, are there any other questions before we wrap up for the day?
I would $1 if you do. That's the question.
It's bribing you for your question.
It'll be in payments, though, installments. I'm a worship leader.
Okay. Would anyone be willing to share a most embarrassing stage moment?
There's so many.
There's an A, not B. There's so many of them.
I'll share a couple. One, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's done this, but you start a song in the wrong key as the guitar player, the band comes in a different key, and it's an absolute train wreck. That's embarrassing. Also, I've had my fly down leading worship. That's never a good feeling, too. So those are two. The moment you realize when you go sit down that your fly has been open the entire worship set. Didn't love that.
I used to have jeans that they could become a zipper. I called them worship pants. They were so awesome for that. It was impossible to have your zipper down.
Those are my Thanksgiving pants. Like Joey Tribbiani. It's elastic. Come on. You gotta have it.
I'll do you one worse. The song started, and for some reason I couldn't hear the key, and they brought the intro back around, and I was just thinking, and I was like, for some reason I told the band to kind of stop, and I brought them down, and I started the song in a different key, and then I could feel their eyes going, what is he doing? And then they came back in, and I was just like, that was bad, that was horrible. So, yeah, that one always comes back to me and reminds me like, hey, you're not that good.
I will say that people say that, the more you do it, that's like you'll get better, you get more polished. I'm just convinced I have more opportunities to do something ridiculous. And everyone gets to see it, so it's awesome. I think I've done many weird things on stages by accident, but one of my favorite ones is when we were going to take communion. And I had to call the ushers to distribute the elements. And what I told the whole church we were going to do was distribute the communion elephants. And I was literally like, elements. And they're like, should I laugh? It was funny. Should I acknowledge it? Be holy? Like, I didn't know what to do. I just got really awkward. And then I was like, maybe nobody noticed. And I said, elephants. And well, we had a Saturday night gathering and Sunday morning. So the next morning, this happened Saturday, I come in and one of the ushers is walking around and he says, good morning. I say, good morning. He says, will we be taking any communion elephants today? And I said, I sure hope not.
Well, wait, what's yours?
Oh, it's mine. I've also started in the wrong key, but I don't typically play an instrument. So just vocally, I think song 1 was in the key of E. Song 2 was in the key of A, and it was one of those, there was no intro or anything, you just write it on the verse, and so I was still singing in the key of E, and this was back when we still live streamed, and the camera's like on me, and you can see, I sang like a good 2 lines, and then you see me stop and go, that's not right. And then I pull my mic down, and then you see me like singing to myself, like, what is it? And I think I finally got there by the chorus, but it was bad.
Others follow up. One of my proudest moments as a worship leader was I started the song in the wrong key. My lead guitar player noticed that I was in the wrong key. And I've been working with this band for a long time. We didn't have any music stands on the stage, played by the number system, but my lead guitar player noticed I was in the wrong key, behind my back, told all the other people the key I was playing in. They come in the wrong key with me, which sounded right. I'm like halfway through the song, I don't even notice it, and then all of a sudden, like, I get chills through my body like I'm in the wrong key. And I'm like, why does it sound right? And then I realized that they were with me right, and I was like, you guys, you're the best. So they compensated for my mistake. They saw it, they caught it, they jumped in right. No one ever knew it. And I was like, heart be still. I love you guys.
Well, I'll tell you something. It's reading these words for me. So I'm dyslexic. Like, I'm for real dyslexic. And when I see like through or though, I'm singing and I'm going, we're going to take a shot. And sometimes it pans out. Sometimes it doesn't. I just go, let's keep going.
Well, thank you guys, but thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. And I would encourage you to talk with Jon about his worship leader cohort. That's going to be a really exciting opportunity. And we'll hang out here if you want to talk with any of us as well. But again, this is ultimately to build community locally between churches and between musicians and worship leaders. And so Discord is great, but swap phone numbers, make connections, hang out as long as you'd like. And if you haven't done so yet, you can sign up for Creative Tides emails. You can follow on social media. We're pretty easy to find. So the website is creative-tides.com, and then all of our socials are linked there. So I'll have this session posted over the next, maybe the next week or so if you need to go back and review your notes. But yeah, thank you so much, and that is all we have for today.